Hello everyone, my name is Dragon Krosk, and welcome back to the Backlog Journal for Echoes of Aincrad, despite the fact that I played this game on release, but don't question it. I'm to tell you where I'm at with the game, I'm done. Like there's a little more I could do, but I've platinumed the game. I've gotten every weapon, every armor piece, all of the lore entries. I've gotten like 4/6 of the weapons upgraded, so like one of every sword, rapier, etc. That level. I'm not going back for the chests until they add free roam because there's a lot of them. I looked at the map that had all of it. There's like 400 something. That's too many. But if you don't want any spoilers, one, you've clicked on the wrong video because it should say spoilers in the thumbnail or title. Um, So I'm going to give you a little bit to click off of the video. I'll give you like 5 seconds. All right. So we're gonna go through the plot first, because I think the plot is kind of what is one of the two things I heard people talking about. I don't like how they handle the silent protagonist at all. I think this is very clearly the writing team's first time writing one. I don't know what else this team has done, if they're new or veterans or whatever, but it definitely feels like they've never written a silent protagonist before, because I feel like Dragon Quest has done it better, but even then it's like if it like this is at 1, Dragon Quest is at like 1.5. I still maintain that a silent protagonist isn't a good choice anyway, but I understand that like creative characters with when you have like I don't remember how many voices there were, like say 20 voices. That's a lot of voice actors. It's a lot of money. Like, I understand. Don't get me wrong, I know. I still think at some point the corporations that make tons of money should put the effort into doing it at some point, but that's neither here nor there. But I maintain that Persona is probably the best silent protagonist we've gotten. Uh, Metaphor is like kind of floating around the same area. I have my issues with that as well. Um, but you don't get a lot of input. Excuse me, I got something in my throat. You don't get a lot of input in scenes. So you like for all the times that silent protagonists really feel like they're standing there because they don't input a lot, you really do feel like you're just sitting there and having the story happen around you, like characters are talking, you're kind of standing there. Like you do obviously play a role in Iori's character arc. Like you are implied, that's the problem, you are implied to be something that is pushing her forward and saying, hey, it's okay to be scared, it's okay that like you're anxious and you don't want to die, but like we got to do this. Like it's implied that you're probably the majority of that force that is keeping her going, but it's a little annoying that you don't really get to say those lines, because there's a few times where your character will like motion and act like they're saying something, but I wish that was like a choice. Like give me 2 ways to say yes, give me like 3 ways to say the same thing, so I can still give it my own little personal touch instead of just implying what that scene is supposed to say. And I think that's where Persona gets it right, is a lot of the scenes where you have input outside of the social links. I think you do. I haven't actually paid that close attention, but still, like I think Pokemon's had that a few times. They've been doing it more recently. I remember Sun and Moon had it a lot, Whereas, like, no matter what I say, the plot will progress in the same way, but I might get, like, one different line, maybe two. But I think that's what silent protagonists need. I need some way to put my own self in there, or what I want the character to be, rather than you just doing everything for me. This being said, to bring it back up a little bit, I've used this comparison a lot talking to friends. I do not feel like I could replace this character with a rock and get the same response. I feel like you being a character is the reason the story works. Like, granted, it's not far off. I can really kind of, we're stretching the line here, doing it, but like Dragon Quest, you could replace any of the protagonists except for like maybe 8. But like you could replace like any of those protagonists with like a rock. And I feel like none of those stories change at all. 11, you have the legendary rock, and you just give him a picture of a sword and you throw him at the final boss, and congrats, it's done. Like, it really feels like that sometimes. But to go out the silent protagonist after the Soul Temple, to continue on from that, I do really like the story. It's a very solid foundation. I've mentioned it before. I have my one major issue with the story is about at the halfway point, going from floor 1 to floor 2. And it feels like so much of that section is entirely unnecessary. It felt like padding. It's very specific on how I feel like that. Granted, some of my issues, their skill issue is involved. Going through some of the gameplay segments, I should not have been playing at 2 a.m. in the morning when I was tired. I should not have been in a rush. That's a bad habit of mine sometimes, but I'll get into the details again, just in case. So, to get into the nitty-gritty here. So, going to the labyrinth of floor 1. You do some quests, you get a group of 4 for FF14. It's a light party. I almost said it. But get to the labyrinth. You get a message from a friend that something's wrong. Or like, not something's wrong, but like, hey, that they're, not really in trouble, but like the status update, everything's going wrong because people found out they're beta testers. I might have my order of events wrong there, but you go through the labyrinth with the dungeons. It's not the time to be messaging me. But anyway, with the dungeons for the labyrinth, they're, I think, I'm trying to picture in my head, they're like a 2x3 grid with like one at like the top that leads to the next floor. So you have like 7 squares, and that's like the 2 floors of the labyrinth. And then there's a boss after each one. And then a separate quest is doing the Ilfang fight. And this is something I like, because I recognize that they were constrained by anime canon, so they had to, leave us out. But you are essentially on ad duty. You are in charge of taking out the Ruin Kobold Sentinels that are summoned by Ilfang. And it's sort of like... It feels sort of like a timed fight. Like, you have to kill a certain amount, and, like, it progresses forward. And you can see the scenes from the anime, Diavel dying, because they got the wrong info, and then you can see Kirito and Asuna killing the boss. I don't remember specifically if Mito is there, but she is in the game. You see her at the beginning. You can look her name up on the Monument of Life. But that's not the part I have a problem with. The part I have a problem with is after you do the labyrinth. It is implied that a bunch of people teleport to floor 2. Because Kirito, assumingly, if you watch Progressive, it implies Asuna's with him for it. We don't see it, but it implies it. That they go to floor 2 and activate the first teleport stone. I don't know if that's in town or if that's outside the labyrinth, but regardless, it doesn't matter for this. You get a message from Sayu, your friend, that Clark has died. A person you've never seen, you've never met in game. I don't think they had any lines whatsoever. Like, they've died. And it's Sayu's partner. So she's freaking out. So your party is like, we should go save her. Narrative wise, I don't have a problem with this. The gameplay is what I have a problem with, because she's said to be northeast of the town of beginnings, and she goes really far. We are talking at least six or seven zones, maybe even 8, away from the town of beginnings in a large arc. And these zones are all labyrinthine, like multiple overlaying paths. You were walking around back and forth. I don't think I got there the way that you're supposed to. I missed a zone completely getting there. But it takes forever to get there. There's a boss before her cutscene for some reason. I felt they were compelled to put a boss there. But it takes forever, and it's narratively, gameplay wise, it was awful. I hated at such an urgent time in the story having to feel that, but narrative wise, it didn't make sense that she ran through all of that. But you do catch up to her, and she offs herself. She gets delusional, and she's like, no one. It's we don't have any proof somebody dies. He said, I'll see you on the other side. That clearly means he's waiting for me and wonder why I haven't joined him. And she jumps off a cliff. And that I don't have a problem with. Wiseman is another friend. Is I need some time alone, which is understandable. And then that's that whole quest. And then after a brief transitionary period where you verify that she's dead, and you talk with your party members a little bit, you are like, okay, we should go to floor 2, but we shouldn't teleport there. We should go through the labyrinth again, because we were supposedly struggling during the labyrinth, and not the labyrinth, the boss raid. Now, on the surface, I feel like before I actually did it, I was like, okay, fine. It's a little extra padding, whatever. I really just want to get to the second town. I want to see what the second floors look like, because at this point, I had not seen Progressive, the movie. Even though floor is different from what they show you in that movie, I hadn't seen it, so I didn't have any concept of what to expect. So it's like, fine, I just want to get to floor 2. I want to get the Cardinal rank. I want to see what this floor is like and explore. But whatever. I'll go along with it. So I'm like, okay, cool. It's only 2 floors. And they just want you to do a little bit more grinding. It's not 2 more floors. It's 5. 1 floor, 1 boss. 1 floor, another boss. The raid boss room doesn't have anything in it. Then you get a third floor and a third boss, a fourth floor and a fourth boss, a fifth floor. And these are not small floors. Again, they're like big old rooms, like on a 9 by 9 grid, like they kind of wiggle around. I don't remember how big those extra 3 floors were, but they're big. There's a lot of enemies. There's a lot of traps, a lot of chests, a lot of stuff. And at the very end, and this is where I got skill issued a little bit, but narratively, I still think it's dumb. At the very end, the final boss is another Ilfang the Kobold Lord fight. Now, keep in mind, at this point, you have already fought him in the beta, and you didn't fight him at the... I realize I skipped over some stuff with the plot. We'll get that in a second. You did not fight him in the raid boss, which is fine. But having like narrative, like let's say this dungeon is supposed to be really hard. This is supposed to be your test to open up the next floor. And even in the show and the movie, it is implied that that's the end. When you get to the boss, there is no more labyrinth. You can just walk up a big old set of stairs and go to the next floor. So having not only 3 more floors of labyrinth after that raid boss, but also another Ilfang the Kobold Lord fight after that is really tough. And Ilfang himself feels like the ad spawning machine. It was absolutely miserable trying to fight him. And again, tired, wasn't really prepared for it, was stubborn, but like, God, if you don't go into that fight with any AoE skills, you are in for, or mines or stuff, or are really prepared for it, you are in for a very rough time. Finally, after beating that boss, you have to manually walk up a very long, giant spiral staircase. And then you can get to the second floor. And then you... this narratively makes sense, but this to describe my impatience here. You have to make the trek from the labyrinth entrance to the first town. It's like 3 or 4 zones, and with some of the most annoying enemies ever, because they're the little bow enemies, the giant old cow dudes. They're really big, and they bounce around, and they're frustrating to deal with on a normal day. And then you have a boss that's one. He's even bigger, he hits even harder, he does some similar stuff, he does different stuff. And then after you do that, you can finally get to the second town. So much of my frustration with floor 2's opening was because of the preceding stuff. But that whole section is my one major gripe with the story. The stuff that comes after it, the stuff that comes before it, I think it's fine. The plot beforehand is really just, kind of typical SAO stuff. The game master comes out, says it's a death game, does all of his talking, gives you the mirror. That's when you do actually, you don't do the character creator then. I think you do the character creator in that period where you like the beta test has ended, you are now booting up SAO proper, launch day. You do the character creator then, which I think is really good. Obviously, if you know what's coming, then like, there's no surprise, but even then I don't think there's much surprise anyway at this point. But whatever. I think it's a really good point to do it because it doesn't disrupt the scene. So you're just told everyone's, a bunch of people have died from having their Merv gear removed, a bunch of people died in the field, all of that, and they're like, here, I gave you a mirror, you're watching everyone transform. I could be wrong about this. That was 150 hours ago, like 2 weeks ago at this point, so still didn't feel like it ruin the pace of the scene. You show up. Iori transforms from a guy into a girl, which I was not expecting. I had thought the what you see on the picture for Echoes of Aincrad was the default female model. I was mad that we didn't get to use it. And they have a design. I'm still mad we didn't get to use it, but I get it. Regardless, it transforms from there into... We've played the beta. We kind of have an idea of what to do. So we're going to kind of fast track our progress. We're going to... Since you didn't actually play much in the beta, you kind of played on like the last day is applied. Here, we're going to get you this town. We're going to get you a really good weapon. It's going to carry you for a while. And boy howdy, it's a really good weapon. It does carry you for a while. You upgrade it, do a bunch of story, and the whole point is kind of getting your head around, no, this is real. If we die, that's it. And it kind of just progresses from there. Eventually, oh, that's something else. Like, after the floor 1 boss is when you get the real plot of this game. That you have a separate quest to stop Aincrad from falling into ruin, and you need to find the legendary weapons to do so. That's basically all on Floor 2. After Floor 2's introduction, you go... Basically, you're like, okay, well, we don't know what we're doing. We've never heard of this quest. Kirito got to Floor 8 in the beta. Maybe he knows something. That's the quest. And he tells you, because this is very important, this is why I'm mentioning this specifically. Kirito tells you, I've never heard of this quest. It seems really important. However, I didn't get the quest. You got the quest. You should clear it. Seems, don't just abandon it. He goes, I'm trying to clear the 100th floor. I'm going to be kind of busy. But if I find any info, I'll send it to Argo or to you, and Argo's looking on her own. So they make a specific point to say, Kirito is not involved narratively. Like, he will be a character, but he's doing something else. He's working towards a different goal. Not to say that, like, you know, he... Depends on how they handle the rest of it. Not to say... He doesn't steal the spotlight in this game. But not to say that they can't make a mistake and do that later. Floor 2 is more meeting new characters. This is meeting the party members that you're going to travel with for the rest of the game. They interweave the anime characters really well. Like you would meeting a normal player. Like, the only reason that I would ever have a problem potentially with these characters is, like, I know that these characters are from the anime. They are putting them here because they want the anime characters to be part of the game. But with the way they've done it, they could have made, like, aside from Asuna, because, again, the Asuna Kirito angle and Argo, but, like, the other characters, they could have put anyone else here. And, like, the story wouldn't have changed. Like, someone else could have filled that role. And I say that as a good thing, because it wasn't putting extra spotlight on them. And then all of them can be partners, you can do their quest lines, and you can take them out into the field with you. So if you really like some of the party, those anime characters, you can take them out into a party. So I like how they handled returning characters. I really like the new characters. They're all really good. Trying to think. I think after that, in terms of plot, we're still on the plot section here. I think my only issue with the plot is the finale was missing just a little bit of lead up to it. Like, granted, in hindsight, I'm still a little silly, and I didn't put the clues together soon enough. You were like, so you're told the final place that you, like, a special place that you have access to that might house a legendary weapon, because you missed one, and you didn't get the map that tells you where the next one is. But they're like, hey, we know of this one place. You know, like, we went there in the beta. We didn't, like, fully clear out that dungeon. Or something, I don't remember. But it was, like, specifically looked like one of the dungeons that you would... No, it didn't look like dungeons. It just had, like, similar theming, like some high elven stuff. And it's the ruins from the beta. So you go there, and but on your way there to unlock that path, you can only travel with Iori. This idle character called Laura tags along. She is not a proper party member. So she's only available during the story quests. You can't upgrade her equipment. Can't tell her what to do. Whatever. It's a little weird that you can't have her post game, but we'll get to that later. Iori and Laura are with you, and you have to face 4 arc bosses, little mini bosses, to open the seal to where you need to go. And each arc boss that you get to, one of the 3 other main party members show up. And, you know, everyone's conversation, including Iori, is like, I'm really scared. I don't want to die, but I'm resolved to do this. Here's why. It's like, they're obviously in character. They're more different than that, but if I boil it all the way down, that's what it is. And it's the really long quest. It's a really big area. And then you face probably one of the worst mini-bosses ever. I hate fighting it. Maybe I could be better, but regardless, I hated fighting it. And then you get to go into the beta ruins. Or the ruins from the beta, I guess, is a better way to say it. It's a completely separate quest from that. But that's considered the dungeon quest. The finale quest, if you will. And so there's that whole lead up. This is where I was silly and I didn't start putting it together till the end. But during the course of the story, you've had visions about a giant owl monster. And you don't really get to tell what it is. But after going through this final dungeon, this other elven sanctuary, you can get some cutscenes with your friends about, you know, again, let's do this. And then the boss just shows up. Like, you just walk into the door, same as every other boss, and you just get the owl boss. There's no cutscene leading up to it to really emphasize that going through this door has something really big behind it. I think you just get a couple lines. I think like an extra transitionary cutscene would have helped there. And then you get this isn't to say the boss isn't cool. I really like the boss. You fight the first form, and he transforms. He changes the arena. The opening starts playing in the background. It's really good. I really like the fight. He uses all sorts of the different weapons. All of the different weapons and different attacks. It's really fun. I had a great time with it. Then you after that you mirror the end, not the ending of the beta, the beginning of the beta, where you're in that dungeon, you do the thing, and then you walk out on top of the floating island, and you get to see all of like floor 1 spread out from you, in front of you. And your resolve is like, we need to gather more people that are like-minded like us to complete this quest, because this was really hard. We need more people. You make a guild, and that's where the games end. So it's a really good foundation set up for the next game. It's just that little lead up was good. Or it wasn't really good. Just needed a little bit more. But overall, plot really solid. There's some other stuff I'm not saying. So then you hit post game, and the 2 things that surprised me: Wiseman never comes back. He is still alive. I've checked the Monument of Life. He is still there. He has not died. And he's not available in post game. Laura is never available as a party member, which honestly also weirds me out. I would have I understand lore wise may not make a bit of sense, but you can just have them there. I think that would have been fine. Just throw them in. So that's the plot. I generally think it's pretty decent. It's not the best plot you've ever seen. It's not the worst thing you've ever seen. I think this is a solid 7 out of 10. Foundational plot. So going to gameplay, because it's the next thing on the list, there really isn't a lot to talk about. I think my number one gripe with the combat is shields are essentially worthless. There are a couple instances where guarding is good and you can parry, but so much of the stuff later in the game cannot be parried. If you block it, it hits all of your stamina, or at least a large chunk of it, even if you level it up. I did not. But we're talking, I had slightly more stamina than the amount you start the game with, and just gone if I blocked any of these attacks. So if you ditch the shield on any weapon that can have it, you get the faster dodge, you get access to perfect dodge, and that it just, I hate that shield isn't an option, really. And a couple other things I have in a similar vein. There's a reversal slash button, which is when bigger enemies do specific attacks. You have a very short timing of when you can press a button and kind of counter it, with or without a shield. And it's so rare in the grand scheme of things, and you have to really know that that's the attack they're doing. And most of the time, by the time that button flashes, you've already dodged out of the way, so you can't really do it. So it just feels like this weird filler mechanic. I would either like to see that more preempted in the future, or make that window a fair bit bigger. Maybe make it so I can do it in the middle of a dodge, if I'm fast enough. That felt like a filler mechanic. Shields were worthless. What else was there? I wish there was a little bit more AoE on some of the sword skills, because a lot of the bosses late game and post game have elites that spawn with them, and they love summoning ads. And man, I wish there was more AoE. The Great Sword has it, the Great Axe has it, and I don't think anything else really does. Everyone has at least one AoE skill. They all have at least one. I wish there was more. Because that really colored the skills that I used. But in terms of that, sword skills dealt really good damage. The cooldown times weren't bad. Even without leveling up my SP, I didn't feel like I was at a disadvantage. I went for a glass cannon build. If I put a few points into HP, stamina, and SP, and then everything else was into damage skills, like strength, agility, dex, and intelligence. So all I put points into, and I dealt a ton of damage at the end. But overall, combat was really solid, felt good. There were I think the AI for your partners was something I ran into a lot. The switch system is okay. I'm not a big fan of it. But if you are on switch mode, you're telling your partner to kind of focus on your enemy, the enemy you're locked onto, and if you dodge out of an attack while in that, they switch in front, and then they're more aggro. I don't fully understand how it works. But if you go to free-for-all, you are saying focus on anything that's not the one that I'm on, and that makes them way more aggressive. However, a problem I have run into is they absolutely cannot get enough of running off to Narnia to fight the farthest thing off screen. I have been surrounded by multiple enemies at times, and I have seen them running off into distance to fight that one guy over there. And I have died for it. And it is so frustrating when it happens. So it's like, as much as like, yeah, focus on things that aren't, I'm not targeted onto. I feel like it should really target enemies around the player character. Not only does it make sense in a gameplay thing, it makes sense in a lore thing. Like, the party members should be protecting each other. So, like, I'm going to try and focus on the things that are attacking you. You are going to be focusing on the things that are attacking me. Just as a general rule, if I'm not dealing with my own issue at the moment, I'm not going to run away from the scene of a mob fight to go fight something that's not part of the mob fight right now. Very rare exceptions, and generally is dealing with snipers, which don't exist in this game, really. Then we get to the final point, is exploration. The exploration of this game, I have a slightly mixed relationship with it. I really like the maps. They are very big. There's a lot of chests. There's one more thing after exploration, but it's a very small thing. But I love the exploration. I love, you can find a bunch of stuff in chests. There's a ton of lore points that, just give you little tidbits of lore about Aincrad and the history of it, stuff that, like stuff about the towns, about the area that you're in, history. And there's even like messages from other players. You can find like messages from the scouting team on the first and second floors, and it's like, as the advanced scouting team, the people who were mapping out the floor before anyone else got there, they talk about some of their stuff, and it's really interesting. And then there's like messages that are clearly from characters that you know. Like, there's one from like, who he doesn't tell you. It's very clearly from Lisbeth, who's like, I want to open a blacksmith and make everyone's weapons to keep them safe. I want to open the best shop ever. There's one from K and A that talks about like, just because we're stuck here, don't forget to like treat yourself. The food is really good. Stuff like that. And there's a couple other messages like, basically one implies that this kid who probably was not old enough to play the game, I don't know if they stole it or if they took it from their mom or if they got it from somebody else, was not supposed to be playing this game and got stuck in it. And it's like, if I ever get out, I'm so sorry, Mom. You have to forgive me. Like, and it stuff like that. It's really cool. I loved finding it. I even like. This is not a trophy, by the way. I think there's a trophy for getting a bunch of them, but like, I went out, looked at this map, and got all 40 of the ones that I missed. There's 177. I really, really liked the lore. I love the way they put the maps together. And I don't think the quest system, I think, is nice for progression. It's not perfect. We'll talk about that in a second. But it's not a perfect system. But I liked it for progression, where it's limiting me and kind of saying, hey, you don't really need to go outside of this area for this quest, but we're not going to tell you exactly where to go. And the way they did the quests are determining what zones you go to the quest. And I find this really fascinating how they did it. The quests assume that you do not have any safe areas unlocked that are not guaranteed. So like any story quest will pretty much always have the town teleport available, because the quest to go to towns, like each town, you have to get that zone, that teleport spot, to clear the quest. You can't clear it without getting it. So that's where they all start, and some other quests don't even spawn if you don't get a specific save point. But if you look at it from the grand scheme, like, outside of like a couple zones, there is no zone in any of these quests that is unnecessary to get to the goal. And as an extension of that, any zone that is in a quest, you can get to the save spot of and unlock the map. You can't get all the treasure chests sometimes, but you can unlock the safe zone. And I think that's really cool. My one, as it stands, I think that free roam should be unlocked after you beat the game. Because that's like that's the band-aid fix for the problem. You can't really fix the problem with that, but I feel like that's a nice band-aid. Like, here, give it to me after I beat the game. I can just clear out everything on my own. I can just grind, do whatever I want, yada yada. My proposed solution to this would honestly be changing how level scaling works. It may change even the level curve of the game. We're taking Borderlands as the inspiration for this, but right now, as it stands, the level cap of enemies is determined by your cardinal rank. It starts at like 15 or something, and then it goes to like 30, and then upgrades all the way up to 60. That's where the story stops. It's level 60. After you beat the story, you get the final cardinal rank. Everything, aside from level fixed quests, which is all the post-game specific quests, everything levels up to you. Everything is constantly scaled to you. It's fine. I think it's really good. But what I would have done is, like, obviously picture free roam. The map's completely open. Go wherever you want. Would be certain zones have certain levels. So like the opening zone might be like level 1 to 2, and it'll scale with you as you level up. But if I walk into the next zone without fighting anything, it might be, level 10 or level 5. It's a bit stronger, and then I might walk off this path, and this enemy is like level 30, and I'm like, uh-oh, I don't need to be here. And then obviously that means the quest boss will need to have a base fixed level, and those would also scale up with you. So if this quest boss is level 10, it's base level 10, I should be level 10 at minimum before I get here. If I reach level 15, the boss will be level 15, and I think that would have been fine for this. Obviously that adds in something I think they didn't want people to do, but happened anyway, and I say get over it. Just let people do it. If you kill something that has, a higher level than you, you're going to get more XP. And you could become overpowered. And I say, let them. Again, if everything scales up to you anyway, you can't really be that overpowered. So if the first quest, if I decide to grind up to level 30, okay, cool. The boss is now level 30, and like I'm not really that overpowered. And obviously, again, for the story, you can cap the levels at whatever you want. It's like, all right, the levels aren't going to go above this at a certain point, so you're going to get diminishing returns. You should finish the story, and then you can just grind to your heart's content. Cool. That would have been my solution for it. Maybe they do it for the third game, but as it stands, that's not a change that can really be made at this point. So just give us free roam after beating the story. I think would be really good. Because, funny note, as it stands, there's 4 zones in this game that you cannot access. They are in the game. They have map. They have paths leading onto it, but you can get it. There's no quests that those zones are used. There's 2 on the first floor, 2 on the second one. The final note is there's a crafting system, and I think this is the weakest part of this game. Aside from fashion, which is really good, I really like the fashion system. Crafting is useless. There's no reason to craft weapons. Despite the fact you can craft basically every weapon, there's no reason to do it. The weapons tend to not really have that great modifiers on them, if you get them at all, when you craft it. And you get so many weapons when you're killing monsters. I lost my train of thought there. When killing monsters and doing quests, you get so many weapons anyway. And you get tempered steel, which is like your super upgrade item, gives you a ton of weapon XP to anything. But there's that factor. So if you're running out of weapons to upgrade the weapons you want to use, you're kind of doing something wrong. But even then, like, you can just use a weapon you've already upgraded and go out and do like a quest and get enough materials to like bring it up if you're killing everything. But leading into that, you use weapons to upgrade the weapons. You cannot use any materials that you pick up to upgrade a weapon. You can craft the armor, but you only craft it once. Once you craft it, that's it. It just has its stats, its passive effect. There's no way to upgrade it, period. With making the armor again, or finding it, or using materials, you can't do it. And then the items. You can craft the items. And like I have done it a little bit just to use the materials because I have it and it costs less. But I got so much money playing this game. I got so much that like here's the way I played this game. So I used the weapon they gave you in the story. I used that for a very long time because it's very good. And then I waited until I was at like 800 out of the 1,000 weapons that I can hold. And then I used a ton of money, upgraded ones I wanted, didn't upgrade the ones I didn't want to keep. And I basically cut that number, down to like 150 to 200. Like locking the ones I'm like, okay, I'll use these for, these modifiers are good. Maybe I don't use them right now. I'll use them later. I did that. And I would just repeat this process over and over. I never went below like 300k ever doing that. I just kept gaining more and more money. Like even now, if I were to, farm again, go back in the game, farm again, cap out the amount of weapons I can hold, I am at 3 million coal. I'm never running out of money in this game. Not without doing something very intentionally, and I still don't think it would work. So crafting just feels really superfluous outside of crafting the armor the one time. So I would really like to see some changes with that. But yeah, I think that's all of my thoughts. I don't think I had anything else left on my notepad. Oh, you know what? Just small technical things just that I noticed. Also, it's the small things here that I want to say. We'll do this and then I'll wrap it up. I think the loot could be a little better from the chests. I didn't mention it during exploration. A lot of the items were really basic. And I would have appreciated maybe just giving some weapons amidst the loot. You know, maybe a couple of them having legendary weapons instead of just giving you the recipe. Obviously mentioned I wish I could upgrade defensive gear. I wish voice lines were louder. A lot of the side NPC dialogue and even some of the main quest dialogue was really quiet compared to lines in combat. So it's kind of hard to find a good volume. That's really like the only thing that's like, can we fix that? Can we like bump those volumes up a little bit, boost them up? But when it comes to exploration, again, slide back to that. I loved exploring this map. It was very clearly put together by people. I know it's weird to say it like that, but it being put together like this was very intentionally made. There's a lot of oh my gosh, there's a lot of shortcuts that if I, they're blocked by seals on the far end. So if I make my way, around the path and unlock the shortcut, now I have a shortcut to the other side. And you'll get treasure on the way, but it's there for later quests if I'm trying to find something I missed, or if I have to progress that way for whatever reason. It's there. The lore being placed at specific points was really good. I wish there was more. There were a lot of places that looked like important spots that didn't have anything. So I don't feel like the map was necessarily empty, but I wish it had more. And then the final complaint I have is I didn't necessarily feel like there were too few enemy types in this game. Like there's wolves, there's the bow, there's the insects, the spiders, the boar. There's a couple others. There's the golems. Maybe like one more I forgot. Oh, kobolds. I didn't necessarily feel underwhelmed by it, but I feel like it could have used a couple more, maybe rounded out to an even 10 different types of enemies throughout the game in different variations. I think that would have been okay. But to wrap this up, it is honestly really hurt seeing people downplay this game, whether through clickbait or people that clearly only watch the Aincrad arc, maybe even just partially, and then never watched anything else, downplaying just the IP and the game itself and proxy. So like obviously I've seen a bunch of hate already, just people that just hate SAO. It's really unfortunate. It's like, we can talk all we want about $70 games. I think maybe this should, like, I don't agree that it should be a thing, but like at words, at the least, I think this should have been $60 for the base game, but I think 70 is fine. But I've seen comments like, oh, this should have been like $40 or something. I'm like, there's too much work and love and care put into this game. Maybe they made some mistakes. Maybe it's not perfect. But I feel like I got a lot out of this game as someone who likes SAO and was not expecting the lengths that some other people were expecting this game to be. I think that's another problem people had, was expectations. I think they set their expectations too high. I have played all of the other SAO games. I know what they've done. I know what they've been like. I played the demo, and aside from the story, which I was still prepared for, by the way, that this was not going to be a full story. This was going to be one arc of a full story, if that makes sense. I knew exactly what to expect. My expectations were not set too high. I was not disappointed by what I got. I was actually impressed by what I got. I got more than I expected with the map exploration. Like, the map The map is huge, guys. Like, I can't express that enough. I love how big it is. So, my ultimate review score, if I have to give it one, I think it's a solid 7.5, maybe 8 out of 10. It is not a perfect game. It's not an amazing game, but it's a good game. I loved playing it. It's fun, and it's a very solid foundation. And I hope that they learn lessons from this game, making the next one and potentially even making the DLC. So I've yapped at you for about 55 minutes now, 55 and a half. I don't even know if I have enough footage to cover this, so you might have seen it repeat. But thanks for listening. Be kind to yourself. Like the things that you like if they're not illegal. Like, it's okay if you like this game. It's okay if you dislike it. Just don't be an ass. If you like SAO, if you like something else that's unpopular, it's fine. Just like it. If it's not problematic, who cares? So just be kind to yourself. And I will... There will be another episode of this for the DLC. But after this, the next Backlog Journal will either be a review video for Metaphor or Octopath Traveler 1. I'm planning on playing Octopath after I play Metaphor. I don't know if I'm going to play, or if I'm going to do a video for Metaphor. So with that, take care. Have a great rest of your day or night. Be kind to yourself, like the things you like, and I'll see you next time.